somehow I have one concurrent viewer. I don't know if this is just like I'm always my own viewer, but there's always one viewer. So, hey viewer. All right, what do I want to do? I want to go to Reddit and find some questions. And we're gonna go the homework help subreddit. Subject, go to mathematics, and I'm sorted by new. The newest question is 17 minutes ago. I can solve a question like this with only one variable. Okay. Looks like a lot of these have already been worked on. This subreddit's really interesting, the homework help subreddit, because the like auto moderator comments in everything, and then there would be like other comments as well. But so the comment count doesn't necessarily give you a good sense of whether or not it's actually been answered, since the homework help bot that they have and the auto moderator, they're both comment like multiple times. Okay, so okay. All right, so here's a question. Let me just save the image. So yeah, okay. So what I've done is I've just told this person that I'm working on his or her or their question in the live stream, and then now we can get to it. I think this is what I wanted here. Maybe it was already there. Isn't there? Where did it go? Where is it? Animation frame, add image, Q1, okay. Alright, well that's not working. Let me just screenshot it. I really didn't even look at this question to see if I knew how to answer it, so hopefully this won't be too much of an issue, but I don't think so. I think it'll be fine. I generally will like check and see, do I know how to solve this, but for most classes, like up to like everything through high school, like I'm pretty good at, and then a lot of the college maths I'm fine too, Calc 1 and 2, and discrete math and those kind of things. Occasionally gets dumped though. Okay. The population of a colony of bacteria is given by the equation A equals A naught times e to the kt, where A is the amount of bacteria after time t. Okay, so that's this A. A naught after time t hours. Okay, so t is in hours, and A naught is the initial amount of bacteria. Given that the amount doubles in 4.5 hours. Okay, so they're telling us the doubling time. I think did OBS just crash? No, we're still good. Are we still streaming? Where is YouTube? We are still streaming. Okay, let me get that window separate. Okay. So given that the time doubles in 4.5 hours, what is the constant k? So this seems like really difficult the first few times you work with these problems, but it's actually not too bad. A big thing that we need to realize is what twice means, what double means, okay? So the idea is that so if this is for question A here, this is for question A. So when t is equal to 4.5, we know that A has doubled. Well, what's twice A? It's 2A, okay? So whatever the right-hand side of this equation, when t is equal to 4.5, it equals 2A. So let's substitute these things in. So 2A is equal to A naught times e to the kt, where t is 4.5. So I'm just going to write this as 4.5k. So there I've substituted k for t. Then we want to find the constant. Okay, so it's important to realize that like this is doubled from what? Well, it's doubled from the initial. So I can just, this is kind of sloppy maybe, but I'll divide both sides by A naught. This thing it started off at A naught when t was equal to 0, so it's doubled since that. So twice whatever A naught is equal to 4.5k. And then here you just take the natural log of both sides. And so we've got the natural log, and the natural log of e cancels out, so we're just left with 4.5k. So the natural log of 2 is equal to 4.5k. Since the natural log and the exponential function are inverses, so you're just left with this. Now I just divide both sides by 4.5, and so k is equal to the natural log of 2 divided by 4.5. And this, you can put this in your calculator and figure out what this is. Why did I do that? Hello everyone that's watching. Thank you for joining me. Please, please, please say hello in the chat room and like and subscribe and all of those things. Or if you don't like the video, smash that dislike button. Okay, so this is approximately equal to 0.154. Yeah. And so I'll use this figure, but keep in mind that we want to avoid any round off errors. Okay, so then going back to the question, this says find the time taken for the number of bacteria to be 3 times A naught. Okay, so we want to know the time when A triples essentially. So now we have k. We can plug that into our equation. So so A equals A naught times e to the 154 approximately t. And we want to find t where this is tripled. So basically what I want to find is if this is equal to 0 here, when t is equal to 0, this whole term goes to 1. So anything raised to the 0, e raised to the 0 is just 1, so A naught times 1 is just A naught. So we want to figure out when A naught triples. So I'm just going to multiply both sides by 3. Or actually, let's not even say it that way. How can I explain this? Go here. So I want to find out the time when this thing triples. So I want to find out when it's equal to 3 times a naught. So when t is equal to 0, it's just equal to a naught. And then I want to find t when it's equal to 3 times a naught. So let's see. So yeah, I'll just, I'll say the thing tripled. Okay, there you go. Equals a naught times e to the 0.154t, and then divide both sides by a naught. This is supposed to be a naught also, so this cancels. E to the 0.154t, and then same trick. We're going to use the natural log of both sides. Here. And so when I do this, like, I'm going to divide by 0.154, and I'll get t equals log of 3 divided by 0.154. But it's important to realize that this 0.154 is actually this, because, you know, depending on how much accuracy you need, like what decimal place you need to write this, it might be better to actually substitute back in this full, the exact thing here. So let's do log of 3 divided by log of 2 over 4.5. And then just like plug this in for t. And it's approximately 7.132. Okay, there you go. So that's that. Hopefully that helped. Never actually asked us to find the initial value, did it? Oh, I guess we don't know. Yeah, we can't find that. Any questions? Questions. There's 4 playbacks. So I think that the person who asked the question must have showed up if they replayed this. Otherwise, it was interesting for some other reason, but I doubt it. Okay, so that was this question. Hopefully the user found it useful. If so, please like, subscribe, all of those things, because it'll help to get the channel noticed. And then I can just get like progressively better content on here. Okay, let's see if this question's answered. Looks like someone answered that, so we'll skip that one. First year university calc analysis uniform continuity. Let's see, I'm first year math student and I'm completely stuck in checking uniform continuity because I don't understand how they choose a sequence. I learned though check whether f is uniformly continuous by the following steps. If the function f is continuous on a bounded closed interval a, b, you can directly say it's uniformly continuous. If not bounded or closed, check if you can take the limits to the boundaries. If one of the limits doesn't go to a real number, you should consider 2 sequences xn and tn, or both sequences. Okay, I don't want to deal with this. This is like actual like advanced calculus. Let me check this. So check for the following functions if it is uniformly continuous on the given interval. I mean, I have to look up this definition. I'm terrible at analysis. Okay, in mathematics, the function f is uniformly continuous if it is possible to guarantee that f of x and f of y be as close to each other as we please. Okay, so limit definition there, by requiring that x and y are sufficiently close to each other. Unlike ordinary continuity, where the maximum distance between f of x and f of y may depend on x and y themselves. Continuous functions can fail to be uniformly continuous if they are unbound on a finite domain. Ah, I see. Okay. Interesting. Or if their slopes become unbound on an infinite domain, such as f of x squared on the real line. However, any Lipschitz map between metric spaces is uniformly continuous, in particular any isometry. Okay, let's see. I actually don't think that I'm going to be able to answer this very easily, so So we see that f is continuous but we actually want, is that the right interval? No, yeah, that is. Yeah, I don't think I'll be good at answering this. Let's find an easier one. Oh, got 3 viewers. Okay, what's up, viewers? Hi. Okay, so this person needs help with number 2. Create a data table and a graph for the following equation for x values -2 to +2. Okay. Okay. All right, let's do it. So take a screenshot of this. And so working on this problem here. Okay. So the live streams are cool because it's just like I can do it really easily and I don't have to worry about editing or any of that. Oh. Yeah, this person didn't really actually solve it. They just kind of gave them the hint that they needed. But then, you know, it's like kind of a risk that I might not be able to actually answer the question because I can't answer everything. Like that analysis problem, I'll be able to answer it eventually, but you know, in the span of like a 5-minute thing, I wouldn't be able to probably. I want to keep them kind of short so I can get to a bunch of people's problems. Okay, so this is the problem that they wanted. Okay, so create a data table and a graph for the following equation for x values between -2 and 2. And so that's our equation. This is linear, we can tell because the exponent of all the variables is 1. Okay. What's up, everyone? Say hello if you pop in the chat, like the video and all that stuff. Oh, somebody liked it. Yeah, I love that. Okay. So let's make a data table. So these are the little t-charts that you're used to. So you've got some x value, and then you want okay, so then we should figure out the y's as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this thing and I'm going to solve it for y. I think that this makes it pretty easy. So I'll add y to both sides, and we get y equals 3x plus 2. So now here I can just plug in x into this, whatever x's I choose, and the y comes right out. So here's -2, -1, 0, 1, 2. Now the question doesn't tell you how many values you should put. These nice integer values are probably a good way to go. I don't think anyone wants you to put a bunch more values besides those. So let's go ahead and do that. So this will be 3 times -2, just plugging it into the equation here, plus 2, which equals -6 plus 2, which is -4. And then we'll have 3 times -1 plus 2 equals -3 plus 2, which is -1. And so it looks like we're going up by 3 each time, and that makes sense because our slope is 3. So all I'm going to do is, instead of like plugging it into the formula from now on, I'm going to just use the fact that I know from here to here to here to here, these are going up by 1 each time, and the slope of this thing is 3. So then I'll just be able to add 3 to each of these values. So -1 plus 3 is 2, plus 3 is 5, and plus 3 is 8. So a little shortcut. You could keep doing the substitution method here for each of these values, just substitute into the equation. You'll get the exact same thing. But we know that this is the way linear relationships work. You have that constant slope. So we'll use that. And it's easy to see that the slope is 3 once you get it into this y equals mx plus b format. This is actually what we're going to use to do the second part of the question here. So let me just point that out. This says create a data table. So we've done that. But then it also says and a graph. So let's do a graph now. So for the graph, I'm going to use this y equals 3x plus 2, the slope intercept form of the equation, as it were, to make a graph. So I'll draw some axes, and I'll put my little arrows on the edge, and I'll label my axes because I'm a good little scientist. And I'm not going to actually put any scale to this beyond what I need to. So let me get a different color here so we can actually plot the line. I know that b is 2 in my equation here. So since b is 2, then I'm going to say that this value is 2. And I know that my slope is 3, so if I go down 3 and over 1, that will be a point. So let's say this is -1 and this is -1. Yeah, I'll do it there. I'm going to have a point right there. So let me make the graph of the line a different color. So it's going to go through this point, and it's going to go through this point. And all my job here is just to kind of like sketch this. You don't want, like, if you needed a perfect graph that you could like take measurements on and do that kind of stuff, you would actually take a lot more care in plotting this, but there's no reason to do that ever. So everything's really just a sketch when you're doing it for these homeworks. So that's it. Yeah, so we used the slope-intercept form. Let me show you why it's named the slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept. Okay, and oh, you're welcome. Dianca LaRue. Okay, that's a cool name. You're very welcome. So I'm glad to help. 2 likes, yes, thank you all. All right. And feel free, like, shortcut my search for questions. If you have more questions, send them right here. You know, if you have any questions that I can solve, I would be glad to. And as always, please subscribe. That really helps the channel get noticed, which, you know, hopefully someday I'll be able to like teach online as my job. We'll see. Well, I actually already do that in tutoring, but I'd like to reach more people. Okay, so we've got more questions. I'm just going to keep finding questions unless you all want to post some as you watch the video, and we'll go until I have to go back to work in a little while. All right, so we have a grade 7 geometry question. Let me hit refresh on this to make sure someone hasn't already answered it. Coordinate of 0 means a point that's drawn on the axis, so the answer C should be the point. Okay, so I think this person's actually answered the question. Yeah, so that's not going to help. And actually, let me just type here your work. Okay, 7 playbacks. This video is actually like one of my better streams so far, which is cool. Some of them like will be instantly good, like get a lot of views, and then they don't get a lot of views after them because I haven't labeled them appropriately so that people can find them through search. But I'm like lazy with that. Okay, this problem for a math review, and I don't really know how to work the problem out. Could someone please explain to me how to solve the problem? This is, okay, consider a bag containing 4 red marbles, 3 green ones, 1 transparent one, 4 yellow ones, and 2 orange ones. How many sets of 5 marbles do not include all the red ones? Oh. How many sets of 5 marbles? Okay, interesting. I actually don't know how to do this. So your sample size is the cardinality of the set containing all possible sets of 5 marbles. So 4 plus 3 plus 1 plus 4 plus 2, choose 5. Okay. Oh, interesting. So this person actually answered the question. And like, I'm bad at combinatorics, so I shouldn't even try. Okay, still looking for questions here, so anybody who stumbles onto the stream and has a question, please post it in there. That saves me a lot of time finding them. How to use given features to construct a possible rational function. Okay, cool. Rational functions are fun. Let's do this. Okay. So, got the question. Oh, this may have been answered. let's just do it. Just letting this user know that I'm working on their thing. And okay, so we are back down to one concurrent viewer, who is probably me. I don't know who is always the concurrent viewer, so, but there's always one, which means it's probably me. But I will keep talking as if I'm talking to you. So let's take this off and this off. Those. And then I will add the next question here. Okay. There's that. And let's zoom in. All right, so I think we'll take this one at a time. Construct a possible rational function using the graph features given. So x-intercepts at x equals 2 and x equals -4. So this person has figured that out. Oh, we got something going on here. Let me just check to make sure we're still streaming, because something just happened. Okay, so we're still streaming. All right, we're good to go. Looks like. If you just popped in, please say hello in the chat and like and subscribe and comment and everything. All right, so let's do number 4. So we want x-intercepts at 2 and -4. And so essentially what this person's done is correct. So you start off with this x equals 2 or x equals -4. And you kind of work backwards from how you're solving a polynomial, right? So the idea is that we know there's the zero product principle. So I'm going to solve both of these for 0. And so x minus 2 equals 0, or x plus 4 equals 0. So that means that these two things are zeros of the numerator. So they're zeros of the function, they got to be zeros of the numerator. So we can just do what they did, and we can say x minus 2 and x minus 4. These both need to be factors of the numerator. Then the second condition that we're given here is we need vertical asymptotes at x equals -5 and x equals 9. And so they did the same sort of a process there to find what the denominator should be equal. So let's put a pin in this for a second. So I'll call that 1. We'll just hold on to that. And then over here, let's say this is the second part. So we need our denominator to have factors that give us these solutions if we set it like a polynomial equal to 0 or x equals 9. So the same thing. We're going to add 5 to both sides. So x plus 5 equals 0 or x minus 9. So subtract 9 from both sides. So these should be factors of our denominator. So call this 2. X plus 5 times x minus 9. So here we have factors of our denominator. Now these are vertical asymptotes. So we know that these cannot cancel with a factor in the numerator. Then the next kind of thing that we see here is we need a hole at x equals -2. So same thing, x equals -2, add 2 to both sides, we get x plus 2 equals 0. So this has got to be a factor of our denominator. But this is important, that we want the discontinuity. So anytime you have a factor in the denominator, like these linear factors here and here, that will cause a discontinuity. If that factor cancels with another factor in the numerator, it'll be a hole, a point removal. If it does not cancel, it'll be an infinite discontinuity, okay, or an asymptote, a vertical asymptote. So we know that this needs to be a factor of our denominator and our numerator. We want them to cancel in the numerator and the denominator so that we have a point removal, a hole. So here's our function. Let's call it f. Is that what they want? Yeah, f of x. So it's going to be x minus 2 times x minus 4. These give us our zeros. That's why they're in the numerator. And then in the denominator, we're going to have x plus 5 and x minus 9. These give us vertical asymptotes. Okay, infinite discontinuities. The reason why we want them in the denominator, so they give us those discontinuities. But also, we don't want them to cancel with any factors in the numerator because they're infinite. But there's the last one, the whole, as it's called by the question, or the point removal. This discontinuity, we actually do want this one to cancel with a factor in the numerator. That's why it gives you the whole. So this is a possible function with these traits, and there are like infinitely many possible ones. You could put like any multiple of this, 2, 7, whatever. So there are ways that you can change this to make the question, or to answer the question, but have different functions. Okay, let's see. I just want to check and see. Okay, no new questions. Let's go ahead and I'll just keep working on this. Maybe the person will come along. Let's do the next problem. So, number 5. Okay. So, same thing. X-intercept at x equals 6. So, x equals 6. We do the same thing. So, solve for 0. We get x minus 6 equals 0. So I know x minus 6 has to be a factor in the numerator since it gives us a 0, or an x-intercept as it's called here. And then vertical asymptotes. So we have vertical asymptote at x equals -1 or x equals 0. So I'll add 1 to both sides, and x plus 1 equals 0. So this gives me a factor of the denominator, and then x is just the other factor of the denominator. And then no holes, so no factors in the denominator should cancel. So we can actually write this equation. So we'll say f of x equals x minus 6 over x times x plus 1. Super easy. And we can do another one here. So no x-intercepts. Vertical asymptotes at x equals -1 or x equals 1. So we'll do the same thing, +1, +1, x plus 1 equals 0, -1, -1, x minus 1 equals 0. So these are factors of the denominator. And they are vertical asymptotes. There are no holes, there are no intercepts. So for this one, we could just say f of x equals 1 over x plus 1 times x minus 1. And that'll do. This works. And again, you could have like 7 over that, but you know, that's just another one that does the same thing. Okay, then number 7 here, no x-intercepts, so we're going to get a same situation where there's no variable in the numerator. Vertical asymptote at x equals -7 and some holes. Oh, actually we will, because the holes. All right, so let's see. So for the vertical asymptote at x equals -7, same thing. Figure out what the factor is by solving for 0, so we get x plus 7 equals 0. So this is going to be our vertical asymptote. This will go in our denominator to give us that infinite discontinuity. And then for our holes, we need these factors to be in the numerator and the denominator. So x equals -1 or x equals 12. Add 1, x plus 1 equals 0. Subtract 12, x minus 12 equals 0. And the reason why I know this works is there's actually a theorem for this. And it also kind of stems from the zero product principle, but essentially, like, if you have a 0, that means this is a factor. If you have discontinuity, that means at these points, that means these are factors. So if this is a 0, this is a factor. I forget the name of that theorem, but it's a named theorem. Now, these are holes. They're not vertical asymptotes. So what that means is they need to cancel in the numerator and the denominator. So we're going to have x plus 1 times x minus 12 over x plus 7. This is our asymptote there, and then we need these, since they're holes, to cancel. So this will have no zeros. The reason why these ones are not zeros is because those x values, -1 and 12, are not in the domain. you see they cause divide by 0 errors here. Even though they cancel, that's why they're a whole, but they're not in the domain x equals -1 and x equals 12 because they cause divide by 0 errors. They cause the function to be undefined. So, all right. So it looks like whoever was watching that disappeared, which is fine. Hopefully the question was answered for them. And let's see. I do have some possible questions open still, but I want to see if any new ones were asked on the subreddit. Boom, boom, boom. Some calculus. We got some quadratics. And let's see. So here's some new questions. Find the area of the region under the graph of the function on the interval given. Okay, this is a good one. So this is an integral, which I think I should have no problem doing, so let's do it. So okay. And let's take a screen grab. I've been like tutoring more and more calculus lately as my students kind of like go on in their studies. They're starting to encounter calculus, so people I've had with me for a while are getting there. So that's kind of fun. I get to do more calculus. It's been a while. So find the area of the region under the graph of the function on the interval given. So basically, this is our interval. And this is our function. So what we want to do is find the area under the curve on the interval. So that's an integral. I'm going to take the integral from 0 to 3 of f of x dx, which is equal to the integral from 0 to 3 of 2 plus the square root of x plus 1 dx. And I can break this into two integrals. The integral of the sum is the sum of the integrals. So we'll say integral from 0 to 2 of 2 dx plus, oh, I'm sorry, I suddenly changed the limits of integration. This is still 3. And 0 to 3 of the square root of x plus 1 dx. Okay, so we can just kind of tackle these one by one. This is going to be 2x from 0 to 3. Just using a power rule here. And then plus, let's see, so we'll say u equals x plus 1. This tells us that du equals dx, so we can just make an easy substitution. So this goes to the integral, and this will be the square root of u. Actually, I'll just write the square root of u as u to the 1/2 du. Okay, and then let's adjust our bounds of integration. So when x equals 0, that means u equals 0 plus 1, which is 1. And when x equals 3, u equals 3 plus 1, which is 4. So this integrations, after I change the variables, is from 1 to 4. Okay, let's evaluate this one. We'll do 2 times 3 minus 0. Or actually, we can do 2 times 3 minus 2 times 0, whichever way you prefer. Then this one, let's do the integral. So it's u to the 1/2, so I'm going to add 1 to 1/2, which is 3/2. So that becomes u to the 3/2 divided by 3/2, which is the same as multiplying by 2/3. And we're going to evaluate that from 1 to 4 since we changed the variable there. Okay, 2 times 3 is 6, minus 2 times 0 is 0. Okay. And then this is going to be 2/3 times 4 to the 3/2 minus 1 to the 3/2. Okay. And so we got 6 plus 2/3. 4 to the 3/2, that's the same as the square root of 4 cubed, right? That's just so let me put that over here. So if you have a to the m over n, this is equal to the nth root of a to the m. So let me just actually tell you what here. I'll take a couple of steps. Why not? And then any power of 1 is just 1. So we'll get that. So we got 6 plus 2/3 times. So 4 cubed is 64, and the square root of 64 is 8. So 4 times 4 is 16, times another 4 is 64, minus 1. And so our answer is going to be 6 plus 2/3 times 7, which is 14/3. Oops. Suddenly my drawing tablet remapped. Hopefully this doesn't mess everything up. Let me check and see. We are still streaming. Okay, we're good to go. If you've just joined us, please say hello in the chat. And if you have any more questions, feel free to post them right directly there. Okay, sorry about that. So now we just can do this. So 6 is the same as 18/3. So I'll just get a little common denominator there. And 2/3 times 7 is 14/3. And so this is 32/3, which is final answer. Okay, there we have it. Any questions on that before I move on? Oh, everybody left, it looks like. Oh no, people are still here. Yeah, please smash that like button and subscribe and all those things. If you don't want notifications, I definitely understand that, but I don't really go live very much. It would be cool if you subscribe to Find Me Again in case you had future questions. Okay, so what's going on? Quadratic function y equals ax squared plus bx plus c has its vertex at a point above the x-axis. Okay. If a is positive, then the value of the discriminant is... Oh, I see. This is a good question. Somebody basically answered that, so I don't know if I want to do it. I don't know. Maybe I can give a better answer. Let's try. Come on. Take a screenshot of this. There it goes. And so hopefully everybody's like clear on the questions that I did try to answer, and there are no further questions on those. But you know, if anything's unclear, please ask for clarification. I'm keeping all of these questions, like all these work here. I think. Yeah, so I have all of these like old problems that I worked on today still here. I can pull them back up if needed. Just go ahead and ask a question if you have any. Let me try to keep this on top so that I can see the questions. Where's the answer to my question? You're very welcome. Oh, I love that username. Thank you guys. When you post it in the chat, it like makes the YouTube algorithm pay closer attention, which is really great for me. This YouTube channel is really small. It has like 30 some subscribers and like 30 watch hours. Watch hours I feel like are easier to come by because of the way I do this, but subscribers are few and far between because no one cares about math, you know. Okay, so let's go to this. A quadratic function. So this is the generic form of a quadratic with coefficients a, b, and c. So these are some real numbers. We don't know what they are. I'm assuming this is a real valued quadratic. And they tell us that the vertex is above the x-axis. So let me draw a little picture here so we can kind of visualize what's going on. So we have some quadratic. I don't know what it is, so I won't draw any scale here. But the vertex is here above the x-axis. And it tells us in the very next statement, ooh, that's a really good quadratic, here and here, that a is greater than 0. So what that means is when you have the leading coefficient of the quadratic positive, greater than 0 meaning positive, that means you're concave up. Okay, so because it's concave up, that means it doesn't do something like this, and so you won't have any of these x-intercepts. So understanding that this thing never intersects the x-axis, that means we should have no real solutions to this equation, ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. Okay, so there should be no real solutions to this quadratic equation. Well, if you recall the quadratic formula, x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. This thing should give you complex or imaginary answers, okay, or solutions for x. The reason why we know that is because quadratics that don't have these x-intercepts here means that they don't have any real valued solutions. They only have imaginary or complex. Now, the way that you get an imaginary or a complex solution is when the discriminant is negative. So what that means is that b squared minus 4ac, the discriminant, that's the radicand, the thing under the radical in the quadratic formula. This thing should be negative, meaning less than 0, okay? And that's the question here. It says a quadratic function y equals ax squared plus bx plus c has its vertex at the point above the x-axis. If a is positive, then the value of the discriminant is negative. Okay, so we got another question. So yeah, I do actually have another question. I'm doing my work right now, and a question came up that asks me to find the area of the region enclosed by 2 graphs. Okay, let's do it. All right, so let me get rid of this. And so we want to find the area enclosed by f of x equals x cubed plus 1 and g of x equals x squared plus x. And for the g of x, I see an extra parenthesis at the end of it. I just want to make sure, can you double check and see that there are no typos before we get too far into it? I think it probably doesn't, so I'll just keep going. So, okay, so we're good. All right. So I'm going to graph f of x first. And this is like just a sketch, so it's not really important that it's super good. But it's going to look something like this. It's lucky that this doesn't have to be super good because I don't think I can draw it super good. But this is x equals 1 up here, where this y-intercept is. So you have the cubic shifted up 1, and then x squared plus x, so we can just kind of like factor that to be x plus 1 times x, and then that lets me know that I have a 0, and why don't I make this a different color? So I'm going to graph this thing in purple. So I'm going to graph one of my zeros here at 0, and the other one, let's say this is negative 1. So that means this function is going to be like here and here. So I'm essentially trying to find this region. So we know that this is going to be some kind of an integral. I'm going to have an integral, and it's going to be the integral of the higher graph minus the lower graph. So the higher graph is f of x, and the lower graph is g of x. So this is going to be what I integrate. But what are my limits of integration? And so I'll ask rhetorical questions throughout the thing. And if it's your problem, or if you're also just kind of watching along with us, shoot some answers in the chat. Like, what do you think? So the question is then, what are the limits of integration? They are these intersections. between f of x and g of x. So I need to find out where x cubed plus, for what values of x cubed plus 1 equals x squared plus x. The way that I do that is I just treat this like a polynomial equal to 0. So I'm going to subtract everything to the left-hand side and try to factor using the zero product principle. So I'm subtracting everything over to the left, and now I have everything equal to 0. So if I can factor this, then I should be able to find the x values where the intersections occur. So this looks like it will yield to the grouping method. So let me group these. I'm going to rewrite this. So this is going to be x cubed minus x squared plus negative x plus 1 equals 0. Okay, so I just rewrote it using the associative property there. And I see there's a GCF here and there's a GCF here. So the GCF in the first quantity is going to be x squared. And what remains is x minus 1. So what I'm looking for with this grouping technique that I'm doing right now is for this to be x minus 1, which lets me know that there's a negative 1 to be factored out there. Okay, hopefully that part makes sense. Let me know if everything so far is good to go. Then if I throw some parentheses, or throw some brackets around this, you can see that there's, in this term and this term, x minus 1 is a common factor. So I'm going to factor out x minus 1. And then x squared minus 1 remains in here. And this can be factored once more. So I'll get x minus 1 times x minus 1 times x plus 1. That's the difference of two squares for this one, which is one of our special products, which we all memorized in algebra, or algebra 2 maybe. Okay, so our multiplicity for this x minus 1 is 2, which is nice. That factor occurs twice. So now that we have this thing factored, I know that this thing has actually 3 intersections, which oh no, it has 2 intersections because we have multiplicity 2. So at x equals 1, or let's actually go through the motions here. X minus 1 equals 0, that's both of these. Or x plus 1 equals 0. And so x equals 1 or x equals negative 1. So what did I do? I set the two functions equal to each other, and I found the solutions to that equation. That is, the x values where those two equations are equal. That's their intersections. So I found the x values of their intersections. Those happen to be my bounds of integration. So I'm integrating from negative 1 to 1. I'm going to throw that on here, negative 1 to 1. Okay, so now we have enough. We should be able to write a nice integral, and this problem should yield to us. Okay. So let's substitute in our functions. So I want the integral from negative 1 to 1 of x cubed plus 1 minus, and you know what, why don't I do this? So f of x is x cubed plus 1. I'm going to do minus and then parentheses here. And in the parentheses, I'll put g of x, x squared plus x. And the reason why I'm putting the parentheses here is for the people who are a little bit less comfortable with their algebra. They would not realize that they actually need to distribute this negative to both terms. That's a really common mistake that I see with my my algebra students and algebra 2 and pre-calculus students. So I'm going to simplify this and put it into the standard kind of like decreasing exponents, the standard form for a quadratic. So we're going to have minus x squared minus x plus 1 all times dx. Okay, so here's our integral. This will give us the answer to the equation. And this is really simple kind of power rule. So we should be able to do this. This is going to be x to the 4th over 4 minus x cubed over 3 minus x squared over 2 plus x. And stop me if you have any confusion about those ones there. Let me just make sure we're still streaming. Okay. I should actually probably make this thing stay on top too, because every once in a while I'll just like get cut off in the middle of the stream, which is a major bummer. So let's say stay on top. How do we do that? Oh, pin tab. Let's see. No. Huh, interesting. interesting. I guess I can only do that with one window. Oh well. We can do this. Okay. All right. Sorry for the delay. So what we're going to do is we're just going to evaluate this. So we're going to get 1 to the 4th is 1, minus 1 to the 3rd is 1, 1 squared is 1, and obviously 1. So this is our first one, and we're going to subtract from this the same thing evaluated for negative 1. So negative 1 to the 4th is 1, and negative 1 to the 3rd is actually negative 1, so minus negative 1 becomes positive. Negative 1 squared is positive, so minus a positive becomes negative again, and then negative 1 here. Okay, so let me see, I'll just zoom this out a little bit. If I'm being a little too glib on any of these steps, just let me know. So we have 1/4 minus 1/4, that gives us 0. Then we have negative 1/3 minus 1/3, so that gives us negative 2/3. Negative 1/2 minus negative 1/2 is actually negative 1/2 plus 1/2, so that's 0. And then 1 minus negative 1 is 1 plus 1, which is 2. Let me just check everything. That's good, good, good. Okay, so this is correct. And we'll just get a common denominator by multiplying by 1, which is 3 over 3. Okay, you can always multiply by 1. So that means this is negative 2/3 plus 6/3, which is 4/3. And so that should be our answer there. So 2 good questions from Onomatopoeia. And if you have more, let us know. Like we can just keep working on your stuff. That's happened to me a few times where I just end up like working with one person on their homework, which is cool for me. All right. So I'm just trying to like arrange these windows so I can see everything I need to. Yeah. So Onomatopoeia is telling us that they are having difficulties with online courses, and I really appreciate that struggle that y'all are going through right now, because I was a math major and I took a few online classes, and it was actually really hard to teach myself, especially then, because I just didn't know how to study math or anything in that for that matter. So I definitely feel what's going on for a lot of you guys, and keep your heads up. Like, it's really difficult, and especially if you're in college, one of the things to keep in mind is that they can't fail you all. So if you're attempting your homework and you're sending your professor emails and you're trying really hard, you're gonna get curved. So you're very likely gonna pass. I think the administration and the faculty understand what you're going through. Now, if you're in high school or younger, I think you're definitely not going to fail, and I know for a lot of you that's not good enough, and I appreciate that too. I think that's really cool that you're trying to do well, but this is unprecedented. Everyone's in the same boat that's in school right now, and just keep trying. It's not a fun time for everyone. And also, I do appreciate the subscription, so it'll help you find me later if you have more questions. And I'll try to put my website in the channel description so you can like send emails and stuff. Let's see. Oh, the other thing is, if you have classmates and you're all doing the same homework, send them the stream. We'll just do your homework together. Okay, let me see if this one's been answered. So I'm gonna keep searching for questions unless you have more. Would B be a piecewise function? Write a set of values shown on each number line below. Okay, this is a great question. Yeah, that's a really cool question. Let me actually type that to you. Okay. this one's kind of a quick hitter, so if you don't have anything by the time I get this all set up, I might just do it, because it's a pretty neat question. Yeah, let's give it a go. I think I'm ready to do it. Okay, so this user on Reddit posted the question, is B a piecewise function? You're very welcome. So yeah, anytime, you know, I think you can even send messages on the on YouTube now. It's like becoming more and more like a social media platform every day. So let me know if you ever have any more questions. I'd be glad to help. Okay, and tell your friends. So the question for this one is, for number B here, is this a piecewise function? And the answer is yes and no. It is and it isn't. I would say that this is probably an absolute value function. So the absolute value of x is greater than 2 is probably this thing. So this means that x is greater than 2, or negative x is greater than 2. And so this is solved, and then we can multiply both sides of this equation, or this inequality, by -1. So we'll do that. -1, oops, and -1. So I multiplied on both sides by -1, and I get x and -2. And I have to remember, when you multiply by a negative or divide by a negative, you have to change the direction of the inequality. So something that a lot of us forget. Even if you're very good at math, this is a really common mistake. So these two inequalities taken together are this. That's what it is. So this is a way to confirm for yourself that this inequality here is what the graph shows us. So let's get to your question then. So as long as we believe that this inequality is this graph that we have here on the number line, then how is this a piecewise function? Well, so the absolute value of x is kind of like defined to be a piecewise function. So when it's equal to x when x is greater than or equal to 0, and it's equal to -x when x is less than 0. So what this means is, if you plug in x and x is a negative number, meaning it's less than 0, you just multiply by -1. If you plug in x and it's 0 or positive, that is to say non-negative, then you just use x. And so this is the absolute value function. So yeah, it's kind of a piecewise function, or it's an absolute value function, whichever one is, you know, like more convenient for you and easier to understand. I think that's the way to go with it. All right, so good question. All right, so I'm gonna keep finding questions. If anybody shows up and has a question to ask, please do. Say hello, like, subscribe. All of those things help me out. And you know, ideally, this would be my job. I just be on YouTube doing people's homework all day. But I'm a long way to go from there. Okay, so we've got a pre-calculus problem. I only need the focal diameter. Yeah, I can do the rest. Oh, what is this? This is like a rotated parabola, I think. I don't remember how to do this. I think you need to, there's a formula to convert these. I should probably study that back up. I'm struggling to figure this out. Help. The complete diagram DE is parallel to DC. Okay, so we got a geometry. Let's see if anybody answered it. Oh, okay, so someone answered that. Linear unhomogeneous ordinary differential equation. Yeah. I'm not doing any differential equations today. Okay. Probability. I'm terrible at probability. Let's see. No one answered it. Or Actually, let me check. Okay, no one's answered this. So there are only green pens and blue pens in a box. There are 3 more blue pens than green pens in the box. There are more than 12 pens in the box. Okay. Simone is going to take, at random, 2 pens from the box. The probability that Simone will take 2 pens of the same color is 27 out of 55. Oh, cool. Work out. Oh, jeez. Okay. Do I want to do this? They basically have it done. Yeah, I don't want to work on that. This person's in 9th grade and they're doing this like really hard probability problem. That's terrible. So that's basically everything off of the Homework Help subreddit. Sometimes I try the Cheat at Math one. Or what is it called? Let me just search. I think maybe we'll just cut it here for the night. Okay, cool. Sweet. All right. So somebody commented on the question. I think this one was the exponential one. So that's cool. It's nice to get feedback. Feels good to be able to help people. All right, so what I'm gonna do is go back to Reddit here and look for that other math subreddit. It's like Cheat at Math or something like that. Maybe they deleted it. Math is good. Math education. I wonder what that's about. Homework help. That's what we just did. I thought it was like Cheat at Math. Cheat at Math homework. Okay, I was way off. Okay, let's see if there are any new ones. Oh, 3 likes. Yeah, I think that's like some of the most likes I've ever gotten in one, like during the stream. I always get a few extra after, but okay. So predicate logic proof. Okay, we might work on that. Learn math. Okay. All things algebra. More spoiler. Okay, discrete math. So that A equals 2I plus HA plus K. Okay, are perpendicular. Ooh, this could be fun. Unsolved. Et voila. Okay. that's really clever. Way to solve this. Yes, you could write it in terms of S. Yeah, I like that solution. That's really good. Well, the smallest positive integer, and so that 2n minus 1 is divisible by 47. Order of groups. Prove that G9 is a cyclic group. Okay. Alright, particular proof. Oh god. Nope. Okay. A boy on a Ferris wheel that turns at a constant rate of revolution every 2 minutes is at most 20 meters above the ground and at least 2 meters above the ground. Construct a graph that models 2 cycles of the boy's height above the ground with respect to time. Start from lowest point on the Ferris wheel. Okay. Write equation of the sinus. Okay, let's try this. Does anyone answer it? Yeah, so this is posted 9 hours ago. That's why I never really use this subreddit, because everything just gets old real quick. Missing a lot of algebra classes. We got this problem for homework, and I just don't know how to solve it. Find the remainder. Okay. Yeah, somebody answered that one. Yeah, these are all so old. So they're just sorted by new. Oh, it's sorted by hot, that's why. New. Probability. Okay. Yeah, this subreddit's just really slow. Okay. Maybe we'll just call it quits. I don't know. I guess we have looks like one concurrent viewer right now other than me. So if you have any questions, post them up to us. Otherwise, I think I'll call it quits for today. I'm going to start working here pretty soon anyway, so I'll give you a second to see if you have anything. It got a little boring towards the end, but it's okay. to find a new picture for my all of my videos have the same like thumbnail. I look busted. All right. I think that's it. I'm gonna call it for today. I think whoever's watching this has rewound to find an old video, so that's gonna be the end of the stream. I'm afraid to call it quits right now because if I do, I don't know if this will like instantly post. So, oh, okay. For the question on the screen, would x is less than -2 or x is, what did I write? Hopefully I didn't do it wrong. Yeah, so let me edit, redo. Yes. So Ben, great question. That is correct. So that is the correct inequalities. They came from this like absolute value of x is greater than 2 inequality. So we can break that into 2 inequalities, and that came from the definition of your absolute value function. So the absolute value of x is equal to this thing, this piecewise function, when it's equal to just x whenever x is positive or 0, and it's equal to negative x whenever x is negative. So I think the way you asked the question on Reddit was like, is this a piecewise function? So I would say it's an absolute value function, and the kind of like definition of absolute value function is this piecewise function. So yeah, yes is the answer. Any follow-up questions? And that was a good question. This is a pretty successful video. The average watch time is almost 9 minutes, which is cool. And we had 16 playbacks. So, this gives us statistics on the chat rate, which is super cool. And we had buku playbacks. So, very nice. And it won't tell me now, but like at some point I had like 8 concurrent viewers. Well, it'll give me the stats like in a couple of days. So what would be written down, the piecewise function or the inequalities? Well, so let me see if I can find your original post. This one maybe. Not that one. Oh, here it is. Okay. Write the set of values shown on the number line below as an inequality. Yeah, you have the correct answer. Exactly as you wrote it. Or so either of them would be fine. Like I think this is the same thing. So this is the same thing as x is greater than 2 or x is less than -2. And they want it as inequalities, so these are the 2 best ways to write it. Either of these is fine. And then if you wanted to write this as like interval notation, which they did not ask you to do, so this is just GWiz information, you could write it like this. So all of these, let me put a different color. So this one and this one are the correct answers, and then this one is another way to write it. So hopefully that helps. If you enjoyed the video and it helped you find the answer to your question, please do all the like, comment, subscribe, and everything. If not, dislike. You're very welcome. So thanks for joining and like chatting and stuff. That actually really helps it get noticed by the YouTube algorithm. So feel free to send me messages on Reddit with more questions. Especially if you give me like a little bit of notice, I can spin up a live stream. We can do your whole homework. Tell your classmates we can get in there and help everybody at once. All right, y'all, I'm going to sign off. Have a good day.